John, this is a interview of your lifetime. And I'm Charles Collins, and this is my wife operating the camera this morning. And the first thing we do is we ask you your full name, where, and when you were born.
John Barwacz, Jr., born in Grand Rapids, Michigan, June 3rd, 1921.
All right. John, do you remember much before you went to grade school?
Oh, some, quite a bit, yeah.
Oh, let's hear what it is. Good question, huh?
Oh, that is a tough question. All I know, it was a tough time. It was the started Depression.
Yeah, 29.
And not much to eat.
What did your mother and father do?
My dad was a bricklayer, and at that time, then unfortunately he died right there in 32.
Oh, wow, you was only, what, 3 years
So-
old?
No, he was.
I was 7, 6
Oh,
or
7,
7.
yeah, okay, 32.
And then, of course, it was tough going. You know,
You bet.
when we were kids, the city, I don't know who, government would give us food, and then we'd take our little red cart wagon. There was a fire station where the Butterwood Hospital is now,
Really?
on Barclay. Well, the hospital was there, but
Yeah.
of course now they expanded. So we'd go to the fire station, and we had coupons. Go to this fireman, hand him that coupon, and he'd give you a loaf of bread. Take that coupon, go to that one. Another fireman, he'd give you a bag of beans. And go to another fireman, he'd give you some milk. And that was it, you know.
Oh, you didn't have a regular place to go except for the fire station?
Well, they had a place downtown that I didn't go to. My older brother or mother went there, and then they gave us something more substantial.
Like probably a bag of flour
Yeah.
Canned
and
meat?
things like that. Yeah.
But here we could go about twice a week to the fire
Oh.
station.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a rough time.
That was in the 30s.
Yeah, that was a rough time. Yeah.
I bet it was. And
So did your mother just stay at home then, taking care of your kids?
Oh yeah.
Well.
Yeah.
how many brothers and sisters did you have?
I had 2 brothers and 1 sister. Yeah.
That was
So that's-
before social services stepped in, huh?
Oh,
Or
yeah.
with
There
the
wasn't any
welfare
such
and
thing
stuff?
then.
Never heard of that kind of word. So
People took care of themselves.
Yep.
And other people.
Other family helped
Yeah.
you or something like that, or the churches might help you a little bit. But everybody was in the same boat.
Sure
You
they
didn't
were.
know you was any different.
No, we didn't.
Yes, that was quite a different time. You know, it's hard for our young people to understand that because we have so many things now that they can go to if they're a little short on money or if they want some extra food for their kids. They've got a half a dozen different programs that they can go search out and get things. And, and they can't understand what in the world, you know, why anybody would go hungry or anything like that. Well, let me tell you, there was a time back when there wasn't all those things to go to.
Yeah. Today, the young generation knows nothing about being deprived of anything.
No.
Got to get married. We got to have 2 cars. We got to have a TV. We got
A new home.
got to have a computer. We got all that.
Yeah.
I can tell you, when we were kids, you know what our peanut butter and jelly sandwich was?
Yeah.
It was, the folks used to buy a pig in the winter, you know,
Yeah.
and they'd butcher the pig. This is pretty much standard for and then they'd melt the fat down and make sort of a lard.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then they'd fry onions in with that lard, and we'd come home from school and take a piece of dark rye bread, smear our lard and onion mixture on,
Yep.
sprinkle a little sugar on it. That was our peanut and butter sandwich.
Yep.
That was,
That's what we had.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, the times were different
Oh,
back then.
Yep.
And as you grew a little bit, where did you go to school?
Well, grade school I went to St. Isidore's Catholic school,
Okay.
and then on to Catholic Central.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So as you, do you remember your teachers or the nuns and so on that was at the school?
Oh,
and all?
I can remember two of the nuns, Sister Ewaldine and Sister Urbana. I got a story about Sister Ewaldine.
There you go.
We were supposed to turn in a essay or something. This was 8th grade or 9th grade, because we had 9th grade at that St. Isidore's.
Oh, really?
And yeah, well, one of those,
Yeah.
8th or 9th. And we were supposed to turn in this essay, and it's supposed to be written in ink with a pen.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't pay attention. So she says, we're at class. She says, well, you know, today, kids, is the day you're supposed to turn in your essays. I haven't written a word. So I grabbed a piece of paper and a pencil, and I wrote out my essay. So turned it in. Then we, it had to be the 9th grade, because we started practicing, or the practice of changing classrooms.
Mm-hmm.
So we went from her room to the room across the hall to another nun. So we went across the hall, and we got out of that room, we come back to Sister Ewaldine's, and this one buddy of mine says, John, can't believe it, you wrote a fantastic essay. She read your essay, Sister Ewaldine. Didn't even complain that it wasn't in English. Or not,
It wasn't in
English, ink. So,
Okay, you said you started practicing changing classes.
oh, you know, they do that in high school.
Yeah, so before that, you all just stayed in that one room.
Yeah, yeah. But see, when it was being at St. Isidore's, and they did have the 9th grade, so they started practicing like you did at the,
And back then, the junior high was 7th, 8th, and 9th, I
Yeah.
think. And then 10th, 11th, and 12th was
yeah,
senior high. Yeah,
yeah.
that's the way it was when I went to school.
Well, that was a lot of years earlier, or later than he.
Go.
Okay.
Well, John, as you went from grade school to high school, did you play any sports in high school?
No, no.
Had work to do.
Beg pardon?
I say you had work to do.
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
Was you in a band or anything?
No,
No.
no, no.
Just went to school,
Just went to
Study.
school and
learned things.
make a few bucks here and there, help support the, you know.
You know, that's something else the kids nowadays wouldn't know. I mean, back then, if a kid had a job, they handed all their money over to mom and dad.
Oh, of
Yeah,
course.
that's the truth.
Nowadays, they would fight you on it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What do you mean? That's my money, right?
Right.
Yeah. Well, John, along at the time that you were going to high school, there was quite a lot in the news about what was happening in Europe. Did you really follow any of that? Did you know what was going on?
Not really. Not too concerned. I don't know, me. Just
So,
knew that things were happening, you know.
so you didn't really hear a lot about Adolf Hitler and the things that he was doing, or
No.
okay?
So
So
a little bit that,
yeah.
you know, I know we never took the newspaper, didn't afford it, and
Aha.
turned the radio on.
Did they talk about it in school at all?
I can't remember ever hearing about it in school.
Okay.
Oh, you know.
Well, John, where were you at in school when Pearl Harbor happened? Seemed like you'd been graduated by then.
Yeah, I was not in school.
Right.
I know all I remember Pearl Harbor was a Sunday morning.
Yeah, so let's talk about how you graduated. Did you graduate from high school?
No, I didn't graduate
Okay.
from high school. I dropped out and went to work.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Where did you go to work?
Well, at that time, variety of jobs. I worked for a coal yard, delivering coal,
Yeah.
and then I worked in the, after that I worked in a factory, and, well, somewhere in between two, I helped the friend that did landscaping.
Really?
Yeah, we cut lawns and stuff like that. Just all
Yeah, all
kind of like
kinds of-
little part-time
Yeah,
jobs, you know.
Okay.
Do you remember how much you got for cutting a lawn?
No, all I know I made, the most I made was 40 cents an hour. I know that. I didn't get paid. The fella I worked with, he paid me, and I don't know what he got for the lawn or digging up the flower beds or what, you know.
Now they get $20, $30 just to cut a lawn.
Yeah, 40 cents an hour I made.
Oh,
That's what I think. That's what I made working for the coal yard too.
What did you do at the coal yard?
Deliver coal and unload boxcars.
All right.
Oh my God, I almost died a couple of times. That you had people that lived on a hill, no way to get there. To deliver the,
Yeah.
you know, you couldn't shovel it off the truck into the coal bin because they had a window.
Wheelbarrows.
So, and we'd had a basket. You load the basket, about 80 pounds or 90 pounds, you put it on your shoulder. You went up those stairs and you dumped it in the window and back down you went.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Boy, that wasn't been a job, wouldn't it?
Man, it hurt when you got all done. I can remember one time we did that, and I come home so tired. I lay down. It was chilly weather, I know that, because I laid down on a furnace heater, you know. I never washed or nothing. So I didn't eat or anything.
You still lived at home?
Yeah. That's it. That was hard going.
I bet it was.
Yeah.
Now, did your mother ever remarry?
Yeah, she remarried, and but then he got sick, and he wasn't unable to work. So us boys, we were more or less the
Support of the family.
support of the families. Yeah.
So on Sunday morning, on December 7th, 1941, where was you at when you heard
Right
about
at
Pearl
home.
Harbor?
Right at home.
You
On
were
my
right
front
at home.
porch, I heard it.
Had the radio on?
What kind of radio was it?
I don't know. It was a 4-model radio. That's all I know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it, believe it or not, our house was more like considered two-family, although we slept upstairs. But at that time, my mother was renting this house to a fellow and his wife. He was a World War I veteran, and he was having a hard time. He got his World War I bonus, so he bought himself a car, he bought himself a fancy radio, and all this and that. A little while, a year or so later, he couldn't pay his rent.
Oops.
So he gave us the radio, gave my mother the radio for rent. That was our first radio.
Pretty good, huh? I bet you enjoyed that.
Oh, yeah. Harry Heilman and the big Detroit Tigers,
Yeah.
and the Lone Ranger, and who else? Shadow,
Yep, the Shadow.
Amos and Andy, whatever those programs were in those days. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
that I remember. So you were at home on December 7th.
Yep.
And what did your mother say at that time? What was her comments about being attacked at Pearl Harbor? Do you remember?
Well, everybody was shocked, didn't know? You know, we never even heard of Pearl Harbor, and I guess nobody did.
Did you know where it was?
That's what I mean. Nobody even heard where it was. Of course, she was concerned because 2 years later Hitler invaded Poland. That's where she immigrated from.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So how old was your mother when she came over here?
You know, she was a young girl because she got married met my dad in this country, she, I don't know, 16, 17 or something. I don't know.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Young girl travel halfway around the world.
Well, they all did.
Did she ever talk about her life in Poland?
Oh, yeah. Can't believe they had a little farm, about an acre or two. They called them Morgi. That's from German, I guess, because they, at that time, Poland was subdivided by Austria, Germany, Russia, and just all cut up. And she was in the Austrian zone, so a lot of the words were connected with the country that had the occupation. Like my dad, he also immigrated. He was under the Russians, and he had to serve in the Russian army as a young man before he came here.
That was interesting. Did he ever tell you much about that?
Not much about, no. But my mother, believe it or not, she called her, in those days, a first cousin was like sister.
Yeah.
She says, my sister, she's talking Polish, Sophie, Zosia, she called her. And she said, their dad, my mother's dad was still living, but he was real sick. So she came in the house, and Dad had died, laying in bed. So she tells us the story. She says, Zosha, please come. Dad died, So those two girls, 14, 15-year-old girls, warmed up the water on the stove, undressed Dad, bathed him, put on his good clothes, laid him out in, proper for burial.
Yeah.
And went over to the neighbors, and the neighbor says, we got to come and help you get Dad ready. He says, no. Zosha and I did that all. Two little girls, 14, 15 years old.
And they laid him out in their home.
Yeah,
That's what they did then.
Oh, yeah, that was a practice.
Yeah.
So, but, two kids.
Wow. So as you went on and heard about Pearl Harbor, what did you do?
Well, at that time, not much. My one brother was already activated. He was in the National Guards. He was over in I think in the swamps in Louisiana, where they took the unit from Grand Rapids or from Western Michigan, 126th. That's,
That was a Red Arrow, right?
Yeah, Red Arrow,
So your brother was a Red Arrow at that time?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, of course, shortly after, they started drafting. And my oldest brother, Frank, says, well, John, you don't volunteer. He says, you stay home and take care of Ma. Then Stanley and I will be in the service. Stanley was the one in the Red Arrow. So Frank, he joined the Navy. And then Stanley would talk about the swamps and laying in the mud and everything, and Frank's talking, writing home about being on a ship, nice and dry, having good meals. So a little later, I got my notice that, I was eligible for inductions. So I thought, wait a minute, Stanley's in the mud, Frank's in dry, I'm going to the Navy. So I joined the Navy.
So tell us, as you joined the Navy, what happened? Where did you enlist?
Well, enlisted right here in Grand Rapids, and they send you to Detroit for physical.
Yeah.
And then you come back home for a day or so, and then you put us on a train, send us over to Great Lakes.
Great Lakes, and
Training
you rode a
center.
train over to Great Lakes.
Yeah, 6
Was
weeks.
it a diesel or a steam engine?
Oh, those days, all steam.
Yeah.
What year was that you went in?
1942.
1942.
I got my.
How long was you in?
Well, I brought all that so I can
He
remember.
brought his
good.
paperwork, see?
See. Yeah, I enlisted. Wait a minute. August. Wait a minute. Somewhere. 8/18/42.
So
Date of
August,
entry. August.
August 42.
Yeah.
18th of August.
And
Almost our wedding anniversary, Carol.
then
Yeah.
Then I was separated on Christmas Eve, 1945.
Okay.
Oh, my goodness.
And that was by accident because they lost my papers and I was hanging around Great Lakes. They'd send me home for a couple of days, then I'd go back, and finally the papers came through and I got discharged. Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So as you were enlisted and you went to Great Lakes, tell us a little bit about your basic training, your boot camp.
Well, it was a lot different than I thought.
Was it?
Well, strict and up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and
What was your idea of basic training before you went?
I had no idea. All they thought you're going to march and things like that, which we did, but didn't know you did so much standing and waiting.
Hurry up and wait.
Hurry up and wait.
Hurry up and
Yep.
wait,
Get up
yeah.
in the morning, 4 or 5 o'clock. They line you up, muster you. Okay, go back in, make your. Well, we slept in
In a hammock?
hammocks
Yeah.
at Great Lakes, and make your hammock. And they come by and inspect. Oh, you got one thing loose. They tear it apart, do it over again.
How do you make up a hammock?
Well, I don't know. I don't. You pull it all in, and you got a rope. You tie it up.
Oh, you have to undo it all every morning.
Oh yeah, it's wrapped up like a sausage, or you know.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, we had to get them out of the way, and inspections and inspections. You have one little black mark on the floor when they come through for inspection.
Clean it up again.
Got to do the whole place all over again. Yeah, of course they did that. I think just on purpose to teach
For
it.
sure.
They keep us disciplined and stuff. You know.
Did they inspect your foot locker every day too?
No, I
No?
don't. No, on occasion, but the guy'd come by, I don't know, some second lieutenant or something, you know, had a white glove on. You guys did a lousy job. Found one speck of dust on his white glove, you know. But they were
Yeah.
tough all the time.
So after you finished your basic training, did you go into any advanced training, or what
Yeah,
did you do?
I went to University of Kansas, or Kansas State in Lawrence, Kansas.
Yeah.
16 weeks, and I came out a full-fledged engineer.
Wow.
Officer?
No.
No?
No, I'm joking.
Oh.
In 16 weeks, we became engineers. That was an engineering course, because,
Yeah.
see, I'd put down on my paperwork that I'd worked in a factory, ran machines, lathes and drill presses and stuff like that. So then they said, well, put him in engineering. And I ended up in a boiler room.
Repairing engines.
Well, there's a lot of machinery in there,
Yeah.
believe
Machinery
me.
in the boiler room, you bet.
Yeah, good. First
So
time I
much
bought-
for your high and dry.
Yeah.
So after you finished your engineering course in Kansas, where did you go then?
Well, they sent me over to San Francisco, Mare Island. It's kind of a center where they distributed the guys.
Yeah.
Then I got assigned to the USS Hull, which was in for an overhaul at the Bethlehem Steel Yard. So,
Had you ever been out of the state before of Michigan, before you went in service? So it was quite an experience for you
No, farthest I got.
traveling.
No, I think the farthest I got was Traverse City, picking cherries
There you go.
as a kid.
Yeah.
Now, how did you get to San Francisco? On a steam train?
On train, yeah, steam train, yeah.
As you were assigned to USS Hull, and you were assigned in the boiler room, is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and so it was in dock at that time.
Yeah, dry dock, yeah.
And how long did you stay there?
We were there for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're putting some of the modern equipment on, which is,
Yeah.
this ship was, the hull was built in 34, supposedly one of the modern ships, but it didn't have, at that time, no radar,
Yeah.
any of this fancy fire control equipment. And
Now, was that powered by steam too?
oh yeah, it's the great big. We had huge boilers,
What did you use for fuel?
oil, molasses oil. You had to run it through heaters. It's so thick, you had to run it through heaters to get it
To get it hot
thin
enough
enough to go through.
and enough
to
to burn,
burn.
huh?
Yeah, yeah.
So did you have separate heaters for that, or you just put it in the engine and?
No, you had your pumps to pump the oil, and then you had going through the heaters and lines into the boiler. Yeah.
How did they store that? In big barrels?
What, the oil?
Yeah.
Oh my barrels! We carried about I don't recall, but about 300,000 gallons of oil. Half of the ship was oil and ammunition.
The bottom half?
Yep. All.
Wow.
And so, yeah, and a destroyer, when you were steaming, you know, it sounded like a lot of oil. And being down there in the boiler room, we had to log down our oil usage every hour, and you know, all the
Yeah.
pertinent data. And when we were at flank speed, which is you're wide open, probably in a battle zone, we'd burn 3,000 gallons an hour. So the destroyers had to be fueled every 3 or 4 days.
So that's when you see, you know, in movies and stuff like that, where these ships are blowed up. It was all the oil
Oh, yeah.
catching fire.
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay, that's something I never knew.
So, as you came out of dry dock, where did you go then?
Well, we'd run up and down, they'd testing different, you know, now that all this stuff has been, we'd go on a gunnery range, we were on, trying out, say, like from the engines and the boiler room and everything, they'd try all different speeds out in the harbor, out of San Francisco, checking
Yeah.
pretty much everything over. That took a couple of weeks. Then we left there. We went to Seattle,
Okay.
and we got a surprise there. They loaded on all foul weather heavy clothing. We're going up to the Aleutians.
Oh,
Drive the Japs out of the Aleutians, because a lot
Yeah.
of people don't know the Japanese were on American soil.
yes, they do. Yes, they were.
You know, and they bombed Dutch Harbor too. A lot of people didn't know that, and so, but somewhere along the line, some of the deckhands, seamen, jumped ship,
Uh-oh.
and so they were short. So they took me as a fireman. That was the low a rank that you have as a working in an engine room or boiler room. You start out as a third class fireman, second class on up. So I was third class fireman. So they had a need. They needed more people for gun watches. So I ended up, instead of doing my 4-hour shift in a boiler room, I was manning a 5-inch gun as part of my.
Did you know how to operate it?
No, my job was hand a 5-inch shell to you, and you.
So you learned how to do that. Huh?
Yeah, and
Real quick, I bet.
and the other guy,
Yeah.
he, there was about
Yeah.
3 of us, and the third guy loaded, and then you had another guy that, if they had ones with fuses or something, they had a thing that turned the wheel and set the fuse on it, so it'd explode at such and such distance if you're shooting at aircraft or something like that. So, yeah. So then eventually I got my job of going in a boiler room, but there for a while I was did that, and then I was a lookout. I was two of us were the highest guys on the ship.
Yeah. Way up on the.
Bird's
Way up,
nest?
and this in Aleutians it is rough up there, cold,
bet.
man, wet. stormy. Yeah, so,
Is that what they call the bird's nest?
well, I don't know what we
nest.
called it, but it was
Or
right.
crow's nest.
Crow's nest. We were up there, the two highest guys. I was
Yeah.
port lookout. He was starboard lookout.
How long did you have to stay up there?
Well, when you're under battle, under general quarters, that might be 1 hour or 20 hours. Depending
So
how
you
long.
Stayed right there till the
But
general quarters was over.
every morning, though, it was just like having this cup of coffee. 1 hour before daylight, bong, 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 the battle bell rings. You rush to your battle station, because that was a time, if you're going to get attacked just before daylight, the ship was 100% prepared for
Yeah.
anything that might happen. That was everyday routine while you were at sea.
No.
Battle
did you,
stations,
Did you ever get attacked?
well, not in that sense while we were at the morning general quarters. We never had that, but well, we got attacked different times. Yeah, but
So tell us a little bit about that. The how you were attacked and what happened there.
well, the first time we were up in Aleutians, I'll just start with, and I guess all we did is screened it in Atu. We screened the transports and stuff. I guess we did a little shelling, and luckily no Japanese fired at us there. Then we went from there to Kiska, which is another island that the Japanese held, and we were for 7 days in a row. I guess we're shelling that, patrolling it and shelling it. And then American troops landed in Kiska, found there were no Japs. So we must have not done a good job patrolling outside there in the harbor.
So did you get any sleep during that 7 days that you was shelling?
Well, that was just, on and off, on and off. In other words, maybe you'd fire for 2 or 3 hours, and that was it.
Did they fire back?
Yeah, they did a little bit. Not too bad. So, but I could tell you a story about the Aleutians, how bad the weather is there.
Go right
It's
ahead.
real foggy and very stormy. Well, one day in the afternoon, we got a general quarters call, and we run to our battle stations. And somebody, I don't know, some ship reported there's some Japanese cruisers in the vicinity or something. But all of a sudden, the Barwacz captain got a message, they call it talk between ships, that TBS from one of the other ships. A young lad fell off a battleship.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's quite a distance.
and but the waves knocked him off.
Oh,
It's so stormy up in the Aleutians,
Yeah.
waves up and down. So then, like I said, the captain got called, picked this guy up, this young man by. So we maneuvered close in, and I was still in that crow's nest up there, so I could see a lot of this, and because we were at so-called battle stations. And so he maneuvered over close, and this young lad, he had a good life jacket on, one of them May West, and he raised his hand and waved. We threw a line to him, and he missed the line.
Oops.
And took us about 15 minutes to make another pass because the seas were so rough. Second time we come by, he was like this. His head was down in the water.
that water's awful cold up there, isn't it?
Yeah. So this chief boatswain's mate, Doc Tolan, they tied a line around Doc. And we got close enough, Doc jumped in, swam over and grabbed this kid by his kapok, pulled him in, but he was gone.
Oh,
He
my.
evidently froze to death in that water. So I can remember seeing him laying right there next to the torpedo tubes.
Yeah.
And I never realized we had whiskey on the ship. And they give old Doc a couple of good snorts.
Warm him back up. Huh?
Yeah.
That kind of brings the war to you when you see somebody
Yeah.
die like that.
Yeah, and then next day, we didn't transfer him over to battleship. Next day, we just had a little funeral service for him, and over the starboard side he went. Yeah, you know, no formality.
Buried at sea.
Yeah, buried at sea. And don't know who he was, nothing. But it was funny. We kept him overnight. They put him in the egg and locker. You know. Maybe I shouldn't say this, but the mess cooks were scared to go in that locker.
I don't blame them.
This guy was laid up. Well, anyway, he was only in there
Yeah.
that night, and then we buried him next morning. So
Well, that's about the way it was in the Navy, though, isn't it?
Sure.
Buried at sea.
oh yeah, sure. What you can do, you know?
Yeah.
And then from there, we went over. Well, we came down to Pearl Harbor. Oh man, God, getting some good warm weather
Yeah.
for a change. Yeah, we wore these zoot suits forever.
Yeah.
Never, you know, we slept in them and everything almost, you know. And got down Pearl Harbor and got a Liberty for a change and got off the ship. Although it got off the ship once on Alaska, up close to Dutch Harbor for
Oh, did you?
a couple hours, yeah. They had a little beer hall there, and they let you get 2 bottles of beer. And that was you can't believe this. Let's talk about Alaska, rough. They had 50-gallon oil drums scattered around this beer hall. It's run by the Navy or
Yeah.
the government, the Army, whoever. And they give you 2 bottles of beer. You drank your beer, and you just threw your bottle towards the 50-gallon oil drum. If it landed in, good. If it didn't, glass all over. I can't believe it.
Oh.
We was only there a couple hours.
Just throwing your beer bottles right at.
Did they have a base up there?
Yeah, sure they did.
Oh yeah. Big,
Oh, okay.
big beast, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but well then, go back. We got down to Pearl Harbor, and I don't know. There a few days. I got it all in here, but I can't remember dates. And
That's okay.
then we lined up with, pulled out with a task force, a bunch of cruisers, destroyers, and I don't think there were any battleships in there. There was some aircraft carriers, but we never saw them. They're farther back, and we're going to go bombard Wake Island,
Really?
which
Yeah.
the
Okay.
Japs had taken away from us, and so we're single line, steaming, probably flank speed, and shelling Wake Island. Now, I'm still in that crow's nest. I haven't got down to where I'm supposed to be, you know.
Yeah.
And so here they come. We're here, pop. Captain a turn here. The Jap he was about 50 yards behind us every time, every shot. We're that lucky. He just kept missing us. Every zig we made, he zagged. In other words, he
Yeah.
was one zigzag behind us with his, they're pretty good sized shells too. Because when they hit the water, they really exploded. And so, yeah, you asked earlier about getting shelled.
Yeah.
That was real close shelling. Then we're, like I said, going flank speed, and we crossed the wake of a cruiser. Now, destroyers, with all this new equipment on them, they got real top heavy. And we rolled over to starboard.
Oh boy.
And
And you're in the crow's nest.
yeah, I could look down like I'm just like this parallel to the water. I look down there, the torpedoes are underwater, on the gun mounts on the starboard side underwater. In fact, I got this one guy, Spiz Hoffman, he was a cook, but he wrote up something like this, this documentary, and I got his tape. And he says, in it, he says, I didn't think we're gonna come back. You know, she went way over. But we did come back from that role. So then after that, I don't know, a little while later, we, well, of course, we returned to Pearl Harbor and did some more exercises. I know, remember gunnery practice, our gunners weren't that good. They were shooting at a drone plane over there. I don't know. They did miss. Well, anyhow, whatever it was, I wasn't involved in that. We're just watching the gun practice. And then we steamed out with a big task force. We went to the Gilbert Islands. Macon, Tarawa, you probably heard of Bloody Tarawa. So we were bombarding there, and then we were on the backside of Macon Island. I say backside, and the battleships were firing from the other side, and their shells were bouncing off the island and splashing in the water by us.
Oops.
So we hauled out of there.
I bet you did.
And so that didn't take long, a few days. I don't know how many days it took to secure Tarawa and Macon and that. So we pulled out of there, and the next morning we pulled out. There goes bong, 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 battle stations. I'm running to my battle station. Now I'm in a boiler room now. Mm-hmm. And we look over on the starboard side, big ball of fire.
Oops.
So we didn't know what it was. So again, our captain got orders to relinquish his station, which our station was submarine, around the aircraft carriers and battleships. We was always out on the outside. We were on a port side, so we had a revved up the engine's flank speed again where that ball of fire was. Well, the Japanese submarine had sunk the Aliskan Bay, an aircraft carrier.
Really?
Yep. This Aliskan Bay was first time in action.
Oh my.
The first,
Yeah.
thing that they got involved in was at the Gilberts.
And it's sunken.
There she goes down. And wherever he hit a vital spot because she blew so fast. So we got over there and they lowered our boat and start picking up survivors. We picked up 14. I can see the boys going over.
Mm-hmm.
There was a guy floating around. They put him back down. Only part of them there or something.
Oh, my.
And then kind of shook everybody up. They brought those 14 guys on, all oiled and everything, oily covered and everything, But there was more that was saved, quite a few saved. But they gave our ship instructions to go back to our patrol station, submarine guard, and so that was pretty bad.
Did you ever have any torpedoes aimed at you that missed?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Mostly bombs.
Yeah.
Mostly bombs.
Yeah, so, we left the Gilberts, and we brought these guys back to Pearl Harbor, and we're still operating out of Pearl Harbor. We didn't have any forward bases,
Yeah.
So then our next step was the Marshall Islands.
Yeah.
So we went to the Marshalls, and again we were bombarding and screening for submarines for the big ships, and I don't know. I don't even know the sequences. There was and Weetok and Kwajalein and Majuro. These are all different islands in that chain that we didn't we participated in. And so now we had a base, forward base to operate on them. And these islands, they formed like a nice lagoon, you know. There's all little
Okay.
that, and you had a big, like a very big lake in the middle of them. And that's, and
Yeah.
could be 100 ships in there, you know, when they all got in there. So,
What was the name of your ship?
well,
The-
this one, the
USS
USS,
Hull.
yes,
Hull.
Hull. Then I got on another ship a little later, but so again, now we had a base. We'd go into the Marshall Islands instead of going back to Pearl Harbor. We got to go ashore in the Marshalls, and again they gave us a sandwich and a couple of cans of number 2 beer or whatever. You know, we went on shore, and there was a bunch of graves there, and on this little spit that we was on. So this one guy by the name of Harvey Redmond, he says, "Hell, let's dig up some souvenirs." See, we start loosening this sand. It was our U.S. Army buried K rations
Oh, really?
and marked them as graves in case they need.
In case they needed them, huh?
Yeah.
That was funny, wasn't it? Did you dig them up and eat them, or did you put them back?
Just covered it up. We had enough of our who wanted K rations, you know. But that was funny.
The Navy didn't eat K rations, did they?
Didn't have to. We had them you know, emergency rations if you had to go overboard or you know sunk or something like that. But oh yeah, I could tell you this story. When we were in the Marshalls, in one of these, you know, anchor, they came along and was demonstrating a device called a rescue breathing apparatus.
Okay.
It's a mask,
Yeah.
and then the guy was demonstrating it. He says, "Now, only problem with this, you can't have oil and water come in contact with this." And he says, "I'll show you what happened." So he squirted a little oil on it, and he threw it out into the ocean alongside the ship, and boom,
Really?
exploded. So this one buddy of ours, he worked in the engine room. We were all standing around there. They put the mask on him. You know, one mask
Yeah. Go ahead.
exploded.
Ups.
The poor guy, was all
Yeah.
blown to pieces. Yeah. Oh, she got to come back in. Yeah. Yeah. So
You gotta stop that, Carol.
yeah. Yeah. So that poor guy, flesh hanging all off of him
Oh,
and
my.
everything, you know. And thank God, you know, there were, I don't know, boat come over and picked him, took him to either aircraft carrier. I don't know if there was a hospital ship in the harbor there or not. But so anytime somebody says you want to, well, I'm way ahead of my story, but I was in Seattle going to fire control school, and you had to put out fires.
Yeah.
They wanted to put an RBA on me. I says, "Buddy, what I saw, I'll go without one." And when that thing blew up on
Wow.
this young,
Keep talking.
Yeah, go ahead.
so
Go ahead.
still keep going, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm telling them how this RBA, so-called
Now, what is an
Rescue-
RBA?
rescue breathing apparatus.
Oh.
And, yeah, they were demonstrating it to us in the Gilbert, or in the Marshall Islands. We were anchored in there, and one of my friends put it on and blew him all the flesh off his
How
arms
did
and
it
face.
blow?
Yeah. Beg pardon?
How did it blow?
Well, the thing they explained as they're demonstrating, don't let oil and water mix on this device. It causes it to explode. So they poured a little oil on one, and then they threw it out into the ocean and then exploded, demonstrated it. Then he puts this thing on, and somehow there must have been a mixture of oil and water somewhere, and it blew up on him.
Oh,
Like, oh man, he was a mess. I never.
did he survive?
You know, they took him away. Never knew whatever happened to him. Yeah, I imagine he survived, but boy, I mean,
Oh,
I
my
never said-
goodness. Now, did they have something like that for everybody there, or?
what do you mean, this rescue breeding?
Yeah.
No, we didn't have it yet. They were just
Oh.
demonstrating them to us because we were, in a vulnerable area,
Yeah.
around where there's the boiler room, engine room, where there's steam
Mm-hmm.
and heat and everything, so they're showing it. No, I don't know if we ever got them or not.
You just never wanted to wear one.
I wouldn't wear it. No, when I went to fire control school, I never wore it.
Ah,
Yeah. So, yeah. And after that, we went, they took on the Marianas, Saipan, Tinian, Guam, and again, we were bombarding at either Saipan or Tinian, and then we were acting as a screen for minesweepers. They were going in, sweep the harbor for mines before the soldiers and
Yeah.
the Marines could go in. We did that, and then within that same time period, of course, the Japanese had launched their big fleet against us, and I don't know how many days of operation there, but anyhow, ended up called the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot. I don't know if you ever heard of that. We shot down about 400 Japanese planes, and I never got to see one. I was down in that boiler room. All I did is hear the shooting.
so much for the Navy, huh?
Yeah, and our guys were shooting, and I'm down in the
Yeah.
boiler room. So a couple times, I asked the water tender in charge, can I go up the ladder and take a look? So I got up and stuck my head out of the hatch. Well, the skies are all clear, nothing happening. Go back down in there, bang, 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 So, yeah, I guess, we sunk a few Japanese carriers, and of course, like everybody, pretty much history, how many planes we knocked out.
Now, did you have any of these kamikaze pilots then?
Later on at Okinawa,
Ah,
yeah, and we, say that, I'm get confused, where we, I'm telling you about the,
Yeah.
Great Marianas Turkey Shoot, yeah. I was telling her, well, I'm down in a boiler room, so all this shooting going on, and I don't know nothing's going on. All I know is a lot of banging going on.
A lot of banging, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, well, like I said, 400 planes and a couple of carriers.
Yeah.
We got. And then that night, when our planes were coming back after dark, and the only time I ever knew, the aircraft carriers put lights on so the planes could land, but so many of them had to splash in the ocean because they run out of
fuel.
fuel,
oh my.
And then there's a few Jap planes were trying to land too.
Oh, really?
So when they'd come close, they'd turn the lights off. But
Now, besides carrying your fuel, you had to carry fuel for the airplanes too?
oh no, not on the not.
Oh,
not
you're on a destroyer.
yeah,
Okay.
destroyer. No, yeah.
Okay.
So
No, he wasn't on a tanker.
no, but yeah. So
Yeah, I got confused there for a minute.
well, I get confused too, don't I? So yeah.
So you never had any kamikaze pilots until you hit Okinawa?
No, till we get to Okinawa. I was on a different ship then, and well then, I think right after that, after Guam, after what they call the Battle of the Philippine Sea, which was this turkey shoot thing. In between, this has got to be a very interesting story. We went. Well, we got I don't know how many places that we went to. There's a list of all the places, but we were bombarding.
Really?
Yeah, I cut off the couple top ones that I didn't go to. But we bombarded Truck and some other places. You know, Truck was a great big naval staging area for the Japs. But we were one of them other little islands there. We were supposed to go in there, and we got called to quarters. Or in the afternoon, we hadn't, or muster, whatever they called it, you know, in the middle of the ocean. What's going on? So the engineering officer, we're all lined up there in our division. Engineering officer comes out and he says, "We're going to have a job tonight. We're going to go into this place. We've got to try to ram a Japanese submarine." And says now there's going to be a DE, that's a destroyer escort, it's going to be standing by to try. You don't swim towards the island because it's Japanese hell. Swim out, and the DE is going to try to pick up survivors. That's nice words, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good story.
Yeah. So, okay, that evening we go to battle stations, get prepared. We're down in that boiler room, and one guy's got the phone, you know, and we're all fighting to get on that phone, find out what's going on. So he says, well, 10,000 yards, contact, 15, whatever, 5,000 yards, all this. And we all had World War I life jackets.
Really?
Inner tubes. You had to blow them.
Had to blow them up.
Yeah, I had to blow. So I'm blowing on mine, and it's got a leak in it.
Oh, jeez.
And we're down there in the boiler room. We're hanging on, because every time he'd say, yeah, so many yards till we rammed that submarine. I'm hanging on that rail to go up that ladder, because we're down at the lowest part of the ship, can't be any lower. And so all of a sudden, the guy that's on the phone, on the phones, he says, nope, he says, we're running into too shallow of a water. We haven't got the channel where the submarine is. He says, we're going to try sinking it with torpedoes. So they fired 3 torpedoes. And in the meantime, we turned course to get out of that shallow water. The DE didn't know we turned course. So thought it picked up another strange ship. So our own ship started firing on us.
Oops.
So this DE's firing on us. Well, that didn't last long because our captain got on TBS and told him, hey, buddy,
Quit shooting at me.
he quit shooting at us. Well, I didn't learn till I started going through some of this paper. 2 torpedoes exploded, nothing. The 3rd torpedo sank a Japanese truck.
Really? A truck?
It run up on shore and hit a truck. Yeah, I got it in here somewhere. 60 years later, I found out we hit a truck. So, but yeah, and we went to some of those places there. All we did, we'd go night bombarding an island. I didn't even know where we were. We just, line up with battleships, and everybody's throwing shells towards shore.
Wow.
Never knew where we were, what we were doing. We're just limited to,
Yeah.
the only people that knew anything were the officers, So, well, after,
I'm gonna take this, and after we get done with this, I'm gonna put this on the tape.
okay, good, yeah. And so, I guess, after all those islands and everything, the last one on there is Guam, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, after Guam, which was we bombarded that, and then after that, then we came back we went back to Pearl Harbor, got to Pearl Harbor, found out we're going to the States. We hadn't been in the States like forever, it seemed like. Geez, the old captain, he puts her in high gear and flank speed, and I don't know where he got this flag, it's about as big as this room, You put the flag up on a mast, and we're hightailing it to San Francisco.
All right.
No, Seattle. We're going to Seattle for overhaul. So we got into Seattle, and then I got found out I'm being transferred
Well,
off the ship. So I got my 30 days leave. I got transferred, and
1 minute.
what do you
Okay,
want?
John, let's take a little.
You know, funny thing, during a lot of this stuff, it didn't seem to sink in
That you was in a war.
a danger,
Yeah.
really, you know. And,
Did anybody get hurt that was on the ship?
well, before I got on, one guy got an arm blown off at Guadalcanal. That was before I got on the ship.
By a shell coming in or something?
Yeah. We were either led by Japanese planes, but
Oh.
that was before I got on. And no, except for that friend of mine that got blown up by that RBA, that breathing machine, that you know, but that was not from any, you know, Japanese shells. No, we're lucky. We were able to dodge all the bullets.
Now, how did you get refueled? You said it had to be refueled about every 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, often aircraft carriers or battleships mostly, and then quite a few times often oilers. We'd have oilers.
Huh.
You'd say the battle fleets here and the oilers might be 10, 20 miles back.
Yeah.
And then whoever the admiral in charge would release a couple ships to go back to the oilers, get
Oh.
refueled. But more often than not, we got refueled off in aircraft carriers and battleships. Talking about that, I forgot the most important part of this story is when planes got shot down, we used to rush, well, we'd go over and pick up the pilot or whoever
Yeah.
survived. And then we'd pull alongside the aircraft carrier and then transfer the pilot back over to his ship. But the best part about it was we got 10 gallons of ice cream. They send over a canister of ice cream. We didn't have no ice cream. And then those guys up on the aircraft carriers would be standing up there throwing bread at us. And we were eating that bread like cake. Because, we didn't have, our bakers could bake all week long and bake enough for 1 or 2 days,
Yeah.
you know. And I can remember we were out one time, we picked up bread in Pearl Harbor, a regular slice of bread, you know, this big. And week later, we eating that bread and the slice got to be about that big, trimming all the green off. I just told her we'd pick up pilots when they crashed or got shot down, and we'd pull along the aircraft carrier. They'd send over a canister about that big around, about that tall, ice cream. So we had ice cream for that day or whatever.
Yeah.
Man,
How was the
we were all
food on the ship?
Beg pardon?
How was the food on the ship?
Wasn't bad. Sometimes it got, well, you know, you ran low a little bit, but no, we were, I'd say we ate
Pretty good, huh?
pretty good, although there were some meals, Sunday meal, breakfast was okay, but, well, I can't use these words, some of them. For breakfast, SOS,
Oh, yes.
you heard that?
Oh,
Uh-huh.
yes.
All
I
right.
heard that.
Or
Yes.
then in Sunday and evening, you had bologna sandwich, and we didn't call it bologna sandwich, it was horse something else, you know. So that was kind of standard. But yeah, we had
So
depending.
Sundays was not a really good food day?
Yeah, no, and a lot of times you'd be laying in your a sack, you know, and a guy say, "Hey, you want to eat?" I said, "What do you got? Forget it."
Now, what kind of bunks did you have on ship?
Oh, we had 3 high.
Oh, regular bunks.
Yeah, no. Some of the guys that were seamen that slept in the in our galley where we ate,
Uh-huh.
They had to sleep in hammocks because they had to lash the hammocks out of the way because they set the tables up to eat there.
And that's where they slept.
Yeah, they slept in that room. See,
Okay.
yeah, and engineers, we slept way in the stern, and we had. But it's awful.
It had regular bunks
Yeah,
back
yeah.
in the
Well,
stern.
when I first got on that ship, I didn't have a bunk. I had a cot. I was sleeping on a cot.
Ah,
That's when we went up in the Aleutian.
yeah.
And I tied my cot up to a steam pipe or something, because the ship
So-
would roll like this, you know. And them sucking buddies of mine, they'd cut the rope.
Slide.
I'd go sleep and I'm sliding all across.
Did you have anybody get seasick?
Oh my! In Aleutians, oh them waves, 50-foot waves or whatever. All us new guys, we were so sick. Oh my word! You'd have to crawl up to your battle station, on your regular 4-hour watch. I don't know how many days. It lasted 3 or 4 days. And this one friend of mine, Norm, he says, John, he was on the same watch as I was. He says, I'm going to try to go down and get something to eat. I says, Norm, bring me back a piece of bread, will you? I'm going to try something too. So for about 3 days, that's the first food I was able to hold down. And once you got over it,
It's okay.
yeah.
It didn't last the whole time.
No, last 3, 4, 5 days, a week, I don't know how long. Yeah, but it always, and of course, you know, a destroyer was always like this. If you went on shore, if you were on Liberty, if you walking down the street, say in San Francisco, you could tell who was a destroyer sailor. That's the way they walk. Because
Yeah.
one leg is always longer than the other. The ship is always like this. The destroyer only 34 feet wide, and, you know.
Oh, wow.
And 300 some feet long, 330 hours was, and you know, and you'd like, you know, was a stay up in there in the Aleutians, and you had to go up to eat up towards the bow, and here was our quarters, our living quarters was in the rear, stern, and we had to get past those torpedo tubes, and that's wide open over there, and you only had about as much freeboard as this table. From the water, about 4 feet.
Wow.
Yeah. So you'd come out of our compartment there and stick your head out of that hatch or doorway, and you wait for the waves. When one crashed, and you run like crazy across past them torpedoes, and you get halfway, and says, "Oh, hell, forget it. Here she come, get you."
Flash, huh?
You got you. You couldn't get, you know, the wave would, you try to time your run forward between big waves, but they had a line straight. You grab a hold of a line so you didn't get washed overboard. We never had anybody
Now-
get.
Yeah.
The water? There was water there?
No kidding.
Beg pardon?
She said there was
And
water
the
there?
torpedoes, where the torpedoes were, that was underneath the hull?
No, right on top on the main deck. Yeah, that's ain't there a picture of that ship there?
Yeah, right here's the picture.
Yeah, you want to show the torpedoes?
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I couldn't figure out when you said there was water.
Oh, no, well,
So the water washed
was
over
splashed
the,
over the.
Yeah, see, you would run from back here trying to get over to eat, and this is wide open for it. They had
Yeah.
4 torpedoes per rack. I don't know how to
Okay.
say it. And there's
so they
that was
launched,
wide open because the
Yeah.
torpedoes had a swing. See,
well, did they launch the torpedoes from the,
from
Top?
that, yeah, right there, right, 4 feet
Down
above,
in the
about
water,
four,
and away
about
you
4
go.
feet above the water.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
Now, John, you mentioned that you was on another ship for a while.
yeah. Okay, when I got off my leave, I got into Seattle, and they assigned me to fire control school, and I went to that fire control school, and unfortunately, I had the wrong name because we would they'd light off this building, full with gasoline. And Adams, Barwacz, you're on the nozzle. That would
So,
be AB.
AB, so they had you
Yeah.
on a nozzle all
Guy
the
on
time.
Z, he was back there holding the hose 100 yards away. Yeah, so we'd go in there, the instructor, aim the hose in here and put that fire out, all around you. Be careful, you got a fire behind you. So that was, we spent about, I don't know, must have been 3 or 4 weeks at that school learning how to fight
Now,
fires.
where was the school?
Fire school.
Fire school.
But where at?
It was I think in Bremerton, Washington.
Okay.
From Seattle. We'd go over on a boat to this fire school. And, yeah, because I think I was bunked in Seattle. And then, yeah, we'd take a boat over to the fire school every morning.
Now, was that on an island or something?
It was kind of separated, yeah,
Okay.
that's all. But then, a little later, I found out I'm assigned to APA. It's attack transport. And APA 166. And
Explain what an attack transport is.
well, we were taking, we'd load up with Marines, and then they had all their tanks and everything. And you had, like, I don't know, maybe 2,000 Marines on there. They had all their equipment to go ashore. And we had plenty of guns to defend ourselves too on that ship. So I maybe don't know how really APA comes about, but I call it attack transport. See?
How big a ship was it?
Oh, pretty good size.
It was wider than that destroyer, wasn't it?
Oh, quite a bit, yeah. We'd load those Marines on there about 6 high in them bunks way down below. They had,
Wow.
in that hot Pacific, they weren't very comfortable.
I bet they were.
So, okay, so we got loaded up, a few of us, on a train out of Seattle. They took us to Portland, Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
This where the ship was, Henry Kaiser was building these ships, these floating coffins they were called. And so we, real experienced seamen, we were going to bring it down, learn how to operate it coming down the Columbia River from Portland, bring it down to the ocean, So the civilians ran it, but they were explaining things to us. So I actually became if you're on a ship when it's first commissioned, you're called a plank owner.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was a pre-plank owner. I was on it before it was commissioned. So then we brought it into, I think, Astoria, and then the rest of the crew start coming on, and then we had a commissioning ceremony, and again, brand new ship, we had to have all kinds of training exercises. We'd go down to San Francisco and the place off in San Diego where they practice, these landing craft would go in and out because they had what we call the boat crew on there, the guys that ran these landing boats.
Yeah, sure.
They're a separate part of our crew. They didn't work regular.
They were there to operate the landing boats.
Yeah. So then we took off we loaded up a load, and I think it was soldiers at that time.
So did you become a plank owner of that ship?
Oh, yeah, I was pre-plank owner, because
Yeah.
I was on it before it was commissioned, so.
But did you get that plank owner's certificate and all
I
that
think
stuff?
I have, yeah. Oh, yeah, and plus, when I was on the destroyer, we got to be shellbacks. When you cross the equator, you become a shellback, and I got a real nice initiation there.
I bet you did.
Throw you in a ton of garbage and everything, wrap your rear end with a paddle and everything, yeah. So, yeah, that was on the destroyer. But then, yeah. So we left after all these training exercises off the west coast. We took off, and we were all by ourselves. And I'm telling the guys, oh, just as soon as we get out a few miles, we're going to pick up an escort. Somebody's going to escort us,
Yeah.
you know. Because I'm so used being on that destroyer, you always had fighting ships.
Ships around you, yeah.
Yeah, and here we are sailing. I don't know how many thousand miles. All the way to Espiritu Santos or something in the Hebrides. No escort anywhere. Holy man. I said, I don't like this. The Japanese sub could sink us just like that, you know. Well, we made it through there. Then the invasion of the Philippines started.
Mm-hmm.
So we took a load of troops to Leyte,
Oh, okay.
in the Philippines, and unloaded them there, and then I think we went over to, on this ship, we went over to New Guinea, Hollandia, and picked up some troops there, and then took them to Leyte. And at that time, Leyte was reasonably secured, so we were able to go to shore. I had picked my first wild banana.
Aha.
Town called Tacloban, that's right there in Leyte. So, but we were allowed a couple hours on shore, you know. But
What do you mean by wild banana?
they're grown on the trees, you know.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
otherwise bananas are grown in plantations,
Yeah.
but these are just grown.
I thought it was a different meaning.
No, just by themselves, along just about 100 yards inland, you know, from the ocean.
Did they taste different than a banana you buy nowadays?
I don't know.
Don't remember.
I can't remember. 6 years. I just thought we thought we'd pick a couple and try them. You know, they were okay. And then we had a lot of nuisance air raids there. You know, in the Philippines, a few Japs planes was flying over, and then we. But a little while later, they had secured. The main island of the Philippines, and Manila. That's not on there,
Yeah.
and I don't have. I don't know. I don't have anything about. I don't. Didn't bring the APA papers. I got all that, but anyhow. Yeah, we went into Manila, and it was pretty well secured, but still they were said, oh, general quarters every once in a while.
Yeah.
Some Japanese on some of the adjacent islands, because there's about 1,000 islands in the Philippines.
Oh, really? I didn't
finally
know
come
that
to me
many,
in the
yeah.
Philippines, you know, Manila, and yeah, so nothing ever happened. It just, you know, just nuisances. Like that one guy wrote in some of those papers on that Fond du Lac ship. It was named after a town in Wisconsin, Fond du Lac, and. He wrote, yeah, he says that, well, I can't use those words either, I guess better not mention. when these jets would disturb our sleep or something like that, you know. I never did see a Japanese plane there, though, so. But then from there, the Fond du Lac, we loaded up troops, and we went to Okinawa.
Mm-hmm.
We were there Easter Sunday morning, April 1st, April Fool's Day, and we pulled in there and started unloading the Marines. And I had, because I went to fire control school, and I was damage control, my job, in case we got hit or something.
Yeah.
I had to learn how to put out fires and do some repairs or something. So I had a good front seat right on the deck. You know, I wouldn't have to go down in the boiler room or anything. And so we sit there, unfortunately. I'd sit there and I'd watch the American planes bombing. And I see this guy going in, strafing, never come back out.
Oops.
Uh-oh.
American planes, they got shot down or something.
Yeah.
I saw a few of that happen, you know. And at that time, I mean, that first couple days was pretty good, no kamikazes, you know. Then after we got about partially unloaded, the captain pulled out of the harbor where we were unloading, went further away. I don't know, quite a few ships did that. So then next morning, I don't know just how it went about, we pulled back in and finished unloading. Then we see, oh, this ship got hit, that ship got hit. Then pretty soon, we're in it, you know. I guess we shot down one plane when that APA come at us, but it missed us. But man, I look over and bow off on that one, and thank heaven
Kind of brought the war to you.
yeah,
then.
yeah. Then we didn't. Good thing we only spent about a week there, you know, because it really got fast and furious after that.
Did you see any of the kamikaze planes come and go down at the ships?
Well, there was a couple yeah. So, because it really got bad after we.
Did most of them hit their target, or did they
No.
miss?
I would say about 50% of them hit their target.
Really?
Yeah, there was, because there were Japanese planes assigned to shoot his Japanese partner down if he did not perform his
Really?
kamikaze duty.
You just shoot them down, huh?
Well, hey, yeah,
Uh-huh.
they had to.
They had to go do it.
Yeah,
right?
had to do it.
Yeah.
And they're fantastic. Well, they're going straight to heaven if they did it anyhow.
Yeah.
Maybe like the Arabs, they got 7 brides or 7 virgins or something. I don't know. Yeah.
7 virgins waiting
Yeah.
for him at the gates.
Yeah. I got to. And then after that, Okinawa, we went back to Guam, and we come back to the States, to Seattle, and the war ended.
Yeah.
So we went back out, and I think we got to Pearl Harbor, and went to another island there, Pearl Harbor, often Oahu, or Pearl Harbor, and picked up a load of Marines and all their gear, and we went to Japan.
Really?
And, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So we went to this. I pronounce this Sasebo. Other people call it Sasebo, Sasebo. And we went in there, and we had the officer that was captain on our ship. He was in charge of this group of ships. So we were the first ship into this harbor. You know, we picked up. Before we went in, we had to send out. They had things, minesweeper vanes that come out off the side of the ship on long.
Yeah.
To see, so we knock off any mines. There was a few mines we had to get out of the way, and we went in, and we pulled. First, some of the boats went in with machine guns and everything to make sure it was safe to go in, you know.
Yeah.
So we went in, we pulled up alongside the dock, and the Marines went ashore and secured everything. And the next day, they let us sailors off. We could walk around the dock, you know. And the funniest thing, every Japanese soldier, he might have been a general for anything, he was saluting us all. He wasn't
Really?
taking any chances. He salute the lowliest sailor. I'm not gambling. You know?
So you didn't take anybody prisoner or anything then?
Well, no,
That
the
was
war
after
was
the
over.
war was over.
Yeah, war's over, see?
Just hope and
So-
pray to God they knew it.
So then, yeah, we pulled out of there. We went back to Guam, got another load, and we come back second time. This time we were allowed to go into town. Well, but the town was nothing. There weren't 5 buildings standing in that Sasebo. It was all blown down. Wanted to buy some souvenirs, you couldn't.
There wasn't anything, wasn't
Just a
any
couple little
souvenirs
bitty
there.
places, you know, I got some kind of cards written in Japanese, but that's all we could find.
Was there a
Everything-
lot of people?
Yeah, well, I don't know,
Not
not that many
Japanese.
people, because there was no place for them to live. You know, so, yeah, she was all blown up. And after that, why, we got on what they call the magic carpet, bringing troops home. Well, about 2 trips or 3 trips back and forth across the ocean, and I had enough points, and then I got discharged. But I want to tell you something about the Hull. Right after I got transferred off in it, they went in October. They went back out to the Pacific,
Yeah,
and a couple of them, while they were in Seattle, they went to a fortune teller. Fortune teller said, your ship's going to get sunk on December 19th, 1945. You know?
Yeah.
So the captain, and they got a terrible captain. More, according to those guys, the worst guys in the world. He just didn't, his first battle assignment, and in fact, he pulled into the Marshall Islands, and he made all the crew wear whites. You never wore whites. You wore dungarees, you know,
Yeah.
your jeans and your blue work shirt. And they pulled in there, and then the other ships are saying, what's wrong with this guy? You know? And he's a lousy captain. And then he didn't want to have anything to do with the crew, treated them bad. But prior to them leaving the United States, Bob Schultz, he got to be chief boatswain's mate. He requisitioned new life jackets, the latest kind. They had a light on the back and a K-pod, and everybody got a life jacket. Well, not them little that I had, you know, that didn't work. Well, anyhow, they went out, and they're gonna join in with the invasion of I can't think of the main island in the Philippines
okay.
Manila's on. Well, anyhow, they're going to go there, and they're out with Halsey's fleet. They, you know, ladies all secured and everything, and Halsey's pulled the fleet back. We're going for refueling, you know.
Yeah.
So they pulled back, and the seas got rough. And the Hull was back with the oiler group. It was screening the oilers. They were probably 10, 20 miles behind the main fleet. And so ships would kind of come aside. They couldn't oil. The sea was too rough. The hoses were busting and everything. So this went on from the 18th, and then on the 19th, it really got bad. And these ships are rolling, and old Bob Schultz, chief boatswain mate, goes up to the captain, his Captain Marks, and said, "Captain, don't you think we ought to rig for rough seas?" I don't have to worry. And that means put as much off down low
Yeah.
that you could. Nope, he didn't agree with it. But the seas got so rough, and the ship is rolling further and further. And them guys, I'm getting all this from all my buddies, because we had a lot of reunions on the Hull after that. And they said, man, every roll we didn't think we're going to come back. And the captain never would release the guys. He didn't even tell them to put on their life jackets. But Schultz, he went on the loudspeaker, told the crew to put on their life jacket, and the captain didn't like that. So, well, after trying to refuel for a couple of days, and Halsey had this weatherman by the name of Costco. He didn't know what was going on, that there was a typhoon. They were in a typhoon. And John McCain's grandfather was second in command. He didn't, the way they tell it, well, Costco didn't know what's going on. He told McCain. McCain didn't know what's going on. McCain told Halsey. Halsey didn't know what's going on. Halsey, they claimed some of the people overheard him say, "We'll teach these people seamanship on these other ships."
Yeah.
See? And then, well, a little digress. I met a guy in Burger King a couple of years ago. He was an officer on the New Jersey, on the bridge when this happened. And he says Halsey was bullheaded. He wouldn't listen to anybody. So he wouldn't, they kept going right into this typhoon. So ended up, the hull went down.
In the typhoon.
Yep, tipped over in the typhoon. And he got, I don't know, 55 survivors.
Oh,
And
wow.
then there's that, and then the Monaghan and the Spence, they went down, 3 of them.
So how many people, how many sailors did the Hull have?
Well,
On board.
about 250, 260, so.
So only
lost-
about a fourth of them survived.
Yeah, and, yeah, so, and then they floated around for a couple, 3 days, some of them. Sharks were getting a lot of them.
Oh.
And I learned all that from the reunions I used to go. We had over 20 reunions on the Hull.
Yeah.
And the other ship, APA, I went a couple times, but I didn't feel that was home for
Yeah.
me. This was my home, you know.
Yeah.
In fact, I felt bad when I heard it went down.
I bet you did.
And it sounds crazy, but I says, I should have been there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was my ship. I should have been there. But, so they had a lot of stories to tell. We'd go to these reunions
Yeah.
and, you know, then say, it started out be 10 guys on a float or raft, and then sharks come by and grab one guy, or another one would go crazy. Tell a story
Yeah.
about this one guy says, "Oh, I know there's some pop way down there," so he dives off, and they're going crazy from drinking salt water.
Yeah.
And so
Were they in a lifeboat or something?
Yeah.
no,
No?
some of them had nothing. This one guy, this ship's cook, Spiz Hoffman, they called him, when this ship that rescued him, most of these guys, was called the Taberer, USS Taberer, it was DE. And when they picked up Spiz, they called him Lady Godiva. He didn't have a stitch of clothes on him. All tore off, he didn't have a life jacket or nothing. And then different stories about these guys would say, they'd tell about bouncing around, they'd try to get on this life raft. It was just like a donut,
Yeah.
and in between it had just like you have a webbing on a
Yeah.
lawn chair for the bottom, and they'd crawl on there, and a big wave would come and
Throw them off.
throw them all off. So, who was, I don't know, Pat Doohan, who used to be in charge, he said, "The hell with it, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm going to get, it's going to kill me, Every time you crawled one and tried to crawl on there, you get thrown off. Seas are 50 to 100 feet high.
Wow.
Because I know, I went through one typhoon on that APA when we were coming back from Okinawa. The ship is here, and the wave is half a mile down there. All of a sudden you look, and the wave is half a mile up there. Seems like, going in those,
Yeah.
so.
Going up and down in the trough.
Yeah, riding those big troughs, So, yeah, those guys, they went through it, and in fact, that Ray Schultz, Chief Mosen's mate, he got pretty good pension from the Navy, because he hallucinates all the time.
Oh my!
He said he couldn't sleep, couldn't nothing, just,
Because
Yeah.
of the nightmares.
yeah, nightmares. You see a guy right next to him get pulled off by a shark, and in fact, when these guys Well, at the reunions that tell me about it, he says, here comes a ship at us, you know. And he says, my God, they're shooting at us. It must be them stinking Japs. You know, it was the Tabor shooting
Sure.
with machine guns at the sharks. Keep the sharks away from the guys.
Oh
You know,
my.
see? So, some of them, I think, 3 days they floated around. And Halsey, he didn't even know that he lost ships. At first.
Really?
Yeah, at first, yeah.
Now, did you ever have nightmares about your time in service?
Not. I used to have little problems. My oldest brother, well, I got to tell you, during this typhoon, my oldest brother was on the USS Intrepid. I not pronounce it.
Intrepid?
Intrepid, aircraft carrier.
Really?
Yeah, and my God, oh my God, he says my brother's gone. He didn't know I got transferred. See?
Oh,
Yeah.
he thought you went down with the hull.
Yeah, he didn't know anything about it. Well, talking about nightmares, it reminded me, he couldn't sleep without, yeah. At night, you had a red light that was the only light you had in your compartment. And he couldn't sleep without a light when he got home. Had to have a light on in his house, in his bedroom.
Yeah.
He had kind of, you know, couldn't sleep without that light. But I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, he was worried that I was gone. Then never found out for a month or so, you know.
Right. Well, communication wasn't all
No,
that great
yeah,
back then,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So where did you get discharged from?
Came into San Francisco, and then sent me over to Great Lakes, and I was in Great Lakes, and found out they couldn't find my records. So they give me a 5 or 7 day leave, go home, come to Grand Rapids. So I come back to Grand Rapids, go back there, hung around a day or two, no, don't have your records. Go back home for another week or 5 days.
Now, how did you get back and forth? Train?
Train. Yeah, there's a train from Great Lakes to Chicago, and then to Chicago. That like a little electric train ran from Great Lakes to Chicago.
Chicago. Yeah.
And then you took the Pure Marquette. I guess it was called Pure Marquette then. I don't know what they call it now. And yeah, so eventually, when I got back, there and December 24th. Hooray, hooray! I got home. I took that uniform off finally. Man, oh man, you know. Yeah. So. Yeah. And for all that mess, I got 9 battle stars, 6 medals, I don't know, and I got a plaque from the governor of Alaska for, I guess, personally saved Alaska, honoring me,
Yeah.
you know. And I had a big letter from the governor to Alaska for my service up in Aleutians, and I should have brought that APA stuff. I didn't. I just brought my Hull stuff. But,
You said you got what, 5 battle stars?
9 battle
Oh,
stars.
9.
9 battle stars.
Wow.
Yeah, we saw some rough stuff.
And you never got injured.
I didn't, no. And on that APA, this one guy was from Texas. He was on the boat crew. He went into shore with the Marines, you know, unload the Marines. He lost part of his finger.
How?
That's all. I don't know. He come back without part. I don't know if a jab shot him or what happened. That's the only casualty we had.
Yeah.
You know,
Really?
You know, call it battle casualty, and that we were real fortunate.
So after you was discharged, what did you do?
Well, I come home. My brothers were both home. My brother from New Guinea, he had gotten malaria and everything, so they sent him back to the States. He was over at training camp. He came home. He went to work right away. And my oldest brother, he worked at General Motors here.
Yeah.
And he went back to work. Well, he got married while he was in the service. So I'm hanging around the house for a couple of days, and they said, "What the hell's the matter with you? Aren't you going to go to work?" That's his exact words. Hey, I've just been home a couple of days, and them guys just got out of service a couple of days. The one from New
Okay.
Guinea, he worked at Corduroy Rubber Company.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with Corduroy
I
Rubber.
am.
And then they both went to work within a couple, 3 days. And I said, no, I'm going to try for something. I wanted to be a engineer. No, what? Like Consumers Power have big boilers and
Electrical
everything,
engineer?
making electricity and everything.
Yeah.
I know I'm not electric. I wouldn't want to operate those boilers
Oh,
and everything.
okay.
See,
Yeah.
so I went to Consumers Powers, applied for a job. Well, says we don't have anything, but we'll keep your name, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So then went on a couple of weeks, nothing. Then that's well. Then I went back to where I worked at this company called Teasdale Manufacturing. We made little hydraulic pumps. Most of them were for oil heating.
Yeah.
Little
okay.
pumps that heated put the oil in your
For oil furnace, yeah.
oil furnaces. And big market was out east. I guess it still is out there. They heat with oil. So I worked there for a while, and meanwhile got married.
So you didn't get married till after you was back from the service?
Yeah. I got married in March,
Okay.
and I got home in end of December.
So did you know your future wife before you went in service?
Yeah.
Childhood sweetheart?
Not quite, no, but no, I knew her for quite a while. Funny thing, I knew her parents, and I hung around with a guy by my buddy Sammy. He was in the army. We loved to fish a lot and stuff like that. Well, my wife's mother and dad lived about a block up, maybe 2 blocks up the street from where Sammy lived.
Aha.
And the mother and, they just walk and go to the store walking and stuff like that. And she'd stop over and visit Sammy's parents.
Mm-hmm.
And she'd talk, you guys always catch fish. Why don't you bring me some fish, So, okay. So, one day I stopped off at the house and brought her some fish. And that's where I met my future
She had a
wife.
real nice looking daughter, huh?
At that time, she was only about 15 or something like that. But
So how old was she when you got married?
she was 21, I was 24. So, yeah. And then we had 4 children, 3 boys and a girl. And the girl died young. She died from ovarian cancer.
Oh
my.
my.
Yeah, I had 2 children, 2 grandkids. So, and,
What are your kids' names?
well, John was the oldest one, so it's the same as me. And then it was Margaret, the one, our daughter, and then Dave and Joe. And,
So your only daughter died.
yeah, and John became a school teacher. He married a school teacher, and she became a principal for a couple schools. Dave, he was a real brilliant guy. I don't know if you heard of, right when cable TV came out,
Yeah.
he invented the black box that you
Oh,
could,
really?
that you could pirate the cable TV.
Yeah.
He made a ton of money off of that.
I bet he did.
Oh, I bet.
Till the
I know guys that bought them.
Yeah, so
I did.
till the government got after him, or
Yeah.
Yeah.
the government didn't care, but the cable companies told the government, hey, he's this guy. So he made quite a lot of money.
Well, that's good.
So,
Now, did they have any kids?
no, Dave never had any children.
What
he
about the
married
other ones?
a girl that had 2 kids. She
Oh.
married him for his money, I guess. So, but they never had any kids. So. And my oldest son, Joe, never got married. In fact, he lives with me now, Joe. He's a musician, and musicians never make any money.
You don't live here at the home?
Oh, no.
Oh,
Oh, no, I still have my own home. In fact,
Oh,
I have
good.
I have a little cottage up north,
Okay.
not far from Big Rapids,
so what is your address?
1109 Malta.
1109.
I guess that's down on that other sheet, northeast. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay.
Now,
So
is your wife still living?
Oh no, she passed away 2 years ago. This past July 1st. It's just, funny thing. Years ago, there was I'm Catholic,
Yeah.
and they brought this saint girl over to some church in Parnell, I don't know, not St. Patrick, somewhere there. And we went over there to see her, and I got to that casket or whatever she was in. She's been in there for, I don't know, 100, 200 years. And I put my hand on there, and I said, one favor, give us a happy death.
Yeah.
And I'm going to cry.
Yeah.
But July,
First.
well, June 30th, my wife wasn't feeling good. And I wasn't feeling good. We were invited to this friend's house. And I says, I can't go. My stomach, I said, geez, I'll be a mess at that party. Well, it wasn't a party, just
Yeah.
this friend's, his mother came from Texas. So my wife went with Joe, my youngest son. He drove. And she come home and she says, oh, I don't feel good. So she was up a lot of the night, vomiting and stuff like that. So in the morning, we both got up and I said, you want something for breakfast? Make me a little bowl of oatmeal. So I made her a little bowl of oatmeal. She's sitting there in her chair, me in my chair, and it was July 1st. I get my pension check on July 1st, or I can cash it. I
Yeah.
usually have it. So I says, I'm going to go to the bank. I come back from the bank, and then, how you feeling? She says, oh, a little better. And she says, you want to make me a piece of toast? I said, okay, for lunch. It's 11, 12 o'clock. I made her toast. She says, I think I'll lay down. She went into bed and lay down. And about 1 o'clock, somewhere along there, my son Joe come by. He says, Dad, we better take, I don't like the way Ma is. There she was, sound asleep, gone.
Oh, for
Really?
heaven's sakes.
That's,
Peaceful.
we
And
got
she wasn't ill before.
Oh, well, she had heart problems, had a lot
I
of
see,
problems.
yeah.
She had a lot of health problems, same as
Okay.
I've got a lot of health problems, She had a lot of health problems, but, yeah, she was taking, medication all the time. But that little saint lady did what,
That's the way to go.
I hope she could do it for me,
Yeah.
Yes.
Just,
Yes.
she used to like to curl up with her legs, like you say, in a fetal position. She was in that bed that way, and she laid down that way, and that's, so we didn't see what happened, but evidently she didn't have to
Yeah.
struggle for breath or anything.
Yeah.
It just
Thank God.
real, so beautiful.
Thank God.
Yeah. That's nice.
So beautiful.
Boy.
So your son lives with you.
Yep, yeah. He
Do you
does
get
some-
along?
Yeah, yeah, fine. He's real quiet. He doesn't talk much. Sometimes we sit there an hour, don't say a word, watch TV. I like to watch the Tiger baseball game, even though we can,
Ah,
Yeah.
they're not doing very good.
they haven't been
Not
doing
yet.
very
No,
good.
They lost yesterday, didn't they?
Yeah, every day he's
Oh my.
I get so mad. I'm acting like the manager. What's the matter?
Yeah, right.
They don't have a decent pitcher.
I think everybody does. That big old black guy yesterday, didn't he? He really was bad, wasn't he?
Oh yeah.
I don't know his name. I don't watch the baseball that much, but I happened to be where it was on yesterday, and,
Oh, yeah.
and my goodness, you should have heard the people talking about that. Take him out! Take him out! Get him out of
Oh
there!
God, it
Oh, he's finally putting somebody up in the bullpen.
did.
What do you think your time in service added to your life? I mean, what did you get out of it?
Oh boy. Well, I don't know. I guess taught me a lot more about value of life, for one thing.
I bet.
How
Yeah.
precious it is. When you see people dying, and
If you had to do over again, would you do the same thing?
well, I'll tell you a little side story. When 9/11 happened, that was 9/11, and we
Yeah.
have our reunions end of September, or we had them. We discontinued them because last reunion only 14 of us could make it.
Wow.
Well, anyhow, so I get to this reunion end of September. Nobody wanted to fly. I said to my wife, "We're flying," you know, because
Yep.
nobody wanted to fly in planes, you know. So I get to the reunion, and you know, at that time there was probably 30 of us at the reunion. That is sailors. You know, a lot of relatives came, and I tell them that story. I got to tell them that story. I said, you know, 9/11, I went right down to the recruiting office and trying to sign up. And them guys says, well, what happened? I says, well, I had to fill out this form. And it says, what, heart trouble? I said, yes, I got heart trouble. Do you have blood pressure trouble? Yes, I have blood pressure trouble. I don't hear very good. And there are all these questions they're asking me. And then he says, I said, the last question was, are you overweight? I says, yes, I'm overweight. So I says, the examining officer says, can't take you, you're overweight. Them guys laugh like hell.
Yeah, I can see why.
Oh,
I probably didn't tell her right, but that's the way.
Oh, my.
Heart didn't matter, the blood pressure didn't matter, but I was overweight.
But you was overweight.
And not that I'm too old.
You really did go down and do that? No. That's just your story.
I told that's the story I told you.
That's my story and I'm sticking to it.
That's right.
We got a friend that he wrote a book. He was in the Army. And he wrote a book, and the title of it, It's My War, I'll Tell It the Way I Want.
Oh, be darned. Well, I got to tell you something else, too. There, you know, we had 2 books written about this Hull going down.
Yeah?
One is Halsey's Typhoon, and the author, I didn't realize that the author came to Grand Rapids, to the Ford Museum, for autographing. So my buddy and my brother-in-law says, John, you got to go to that, So, because it's all about the Hull, And so, okay. They said, you wear all your medals. So I loaded up all my 6 medals and everything, Go up there, sat in the front row. And so this author started talking, and I'm butting in and telling them things that he
You didn't know.
no. I says, yeah, I was on the Hull. But I says, fortunately, I got off a couple months before it went down. So, boy, people were applauding me like I was a great hero, and everything. I didn't do nothing. All I did is what any other guy did, So then he got through and he took my book and he wrote real nice stuff in there about, thank you for your wonderful work on the Hull and all this and that. So I got that book.
All right.
Then another guy wrote a book too. And it tells all these things I'm telling you about what these guys, about the sharks and all that. It's all in there,
Wow. Isn't that neat?
Yes.
I gotta go to the restroom.
Well, shake hands with him.
Oh, we're done.
We all done?
Yeah.
I guess.
Oh,
Hey,
thank you.
appreciate it. Thank you so
Good.
much. I gotta go to the restroom. I'll be
Well-
right back.
And then years ago, he played problems. He had blood transfusions of it.
Well, thank God for that.
Yeah.